understand some of these things.
As promised, I'm joined by two professors, Professor Macharia Munene, a historian and international relations professor, as well as Professor Alex Awiti of the Aga Khan University. Gentlemen, let me ask, how did you receive the news of Kibaki's passing? I'll start with you, Professor Munene.
Well, it was sad news, but not shocking. You know, sad because anytime somebody dies, it's sad news. He was an old man. 1991. It's not young. So, as they say in some sayings, when you are past 70, it's bonus. So he has had his 20-year bonus. And anyway, he was also ailing in some instances. So the time coming is not a shock, but it is sad. And so he said, but when I got the message from a contact from a European contact, and they said, this has happened. So I check around and it has happened. So it was a sad occasion, but I would not say that I was shocked.
Okay.
No.
Sad but not shocked. How about yourself?
Well, I received the news when I was rudely interrupted at a meeting by one of my colleagues who was telling me that national media was frantically looking for me. That was around 3 because I was immersed in meetings, and I was deeply saddened by the passing of President Mwai Kibaki. And I think he is one of Kenya's most illustrious sons. And the fact that he's basically eclipsed everything today and perhaps tomorrow is a befitting tribute to a great citizen. I think the death of any man diminishes every man. And I think the nation needs to pause and just reflect on this. Death is inevitable, as the professor says, but the timing is never right. And even at a very old age of a life well lived, not many of us will live to accomplish what he accomplished. It's a life well lived, but the gap and the loss is truly felt across this land tonight.
You said he had what, an illustrious career?
Yes.
Okay. And
he's an illustrious son.
Illustrious son?
Yeah.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
So, Professor Munene, how do you remember him? This is how you received the news. Sad, but not shocked.
No, I remember him. You see Kibaki, you listen to him, see the way he carries himself. You just see brilliance walking, brilliance talking. And the personality had that projection of a confident man. Not talking too much, but there is confidence, projecting somebody who knows what he's doing. One of the things about Kibaki was he was a big thinker. He thought big in terms of the economy. So the economists will talk about macroeconomics. He thought big about politics, so macropolitics. And anything he looked at was in a big way, which was very good for him. The problem was he was very poor in petty politics and in small things. So when you try to marry big thinking and small things... Maybe
you could explain that. What do you mean he was good with the big ideas,
yes,
but not the petty politics? Yeah,
petty, small things, he doesn't want to be bothered. And, remember at one time he was referring to those small things as something to do with chicken. So he doesn't want to be bothered with nonsense.
Okay.
And some politics revolves around pettiness.
Do you have like an illustration of that, for example?
See, people who are always looking for votes in the wrong places at all the time, even when they are not making sense. That's petty. And you listen to some people talk, they have a problem understanding the big picture, what's going on. They are so concerned with themselves that they lose the picture of what's going on. In fact, they act against their own interest, thinking that they are behaving properly.
Okay.
So those are petty things that would really make him wonder whether you are normal.
Okay. Professor Awiti, some, including the head of state, refer to him as the gentleman of Kenyan politics. Do you agree with that assessment?
I agree. And this was a most enduring characterization of the late president. He was, in many, many respects, not the boisterous, noisy, nasty politician. At the time when that was the code of the game. It was the modus operandi of many politicians of his time. But he was a deeply reflective, contemplative politician, which drove a lot of people insane. And he was characterized as a fence-sitter, that he never took any decisions. But if you look at him throughout his career, Kibaki made extraordinarily calculated steps. Every political move that he made was out of deep and considered perspectives. You know, many, many years before him, and the late Jaramogi Oginga Odinga characterized Moi as a giraffe who saw very far. I think Kibaki was in that league. And I think it frustrated many politicians who believe that political decisions are the spur of the moment. You know, you just pop up and you say something. And that is the stuff that he completely went the opposite direction from. So he frustrated many people who, you know, especially analysts, who thought that Kibaki was definitely going to say something. And I think Kwendo Opanga is one of those who was deeply frustrated by Kibaki because he wrote profusely about Kibaki in the 90s, especially the run-up to the multi-party and Kibaki getting out of Moi's government and forming DP. Everybody kept guessing, and he got out at the very, very last minute, did not get persuaded to join the Jaramogi Oginga Odinga Matiba fanatical wave. And that's what everybody used to get really frustrated about. And so I think, you know, in the characteristic of a deep intellectual, in a very shallow pool of petty politicians, he stood out like a sore thumb. And I think he was never at any point among his peers. He was always with people that he, in a very smart intellectual way, was very condescending of. And you could see Kibaki just had no time for people who couldn't think. Intellectuals like myself, Prof here, deeply resonated with that kind, because that's who we are. We have very little patience for people we think don't necessarily think hard about the decisions that they make. And that's why many people did not understand how he made his decisions, even though he was surrounded by politicians whose currency was the present moment.
Okay. And when we come back from on the other side of this break, I think you've called him a deep intellectual in a sea of petty politicians. Yeah. We delve deeper into Kibaki's politics.